Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a new match preview on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well. Wolves back at Molineux, back in Premier League action after a little break as we had the FA Cup last weekend. But we're back hosting Newcastle United this weekend. Another tricky game for Wolves, but a game they will hopefully look at to extend the positive and unbeaten start to 2026. As always, guys, be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts and feelings ahead of the game in the comment section down below. Of course, we'll have the opposition perspective later on. But Newcastle United coming to Molineux. Always tricky games against Newcastle. Always fairly close games as well. A fixture where you'll probably see the stats pop up throughout the video. A fixture where both teams do tend to score. It's just going to be who comes out on top. A quick word on Newcastle, of course. We'll talk about them later on in the opposition part as well. But coming into it on actually decent form. They struggled a little bit during the week against Manchester City. It's never easy against City, but that was in the Carabao Cup semi-final. They have picked up a little bit of form again in the league. They had been a little bit inconsistent, but they've won the last few games in the league. They've won in the FA Cup, albeit took quite a while to do. I think it went to penalties in the end last Saturday afternoon. So I'm hoping maybe Wolves catch them on a bad day, tired legs perhaps, one eye on a European fixture as well in the coming week. So could it be a good time for Wolverhampton Wanderers to play Newcastle United? Now, in regards to Wolves, we had Rob Edwards' pre-match press conference earlier on today. He pretty much confirmed what we were expecting in terms of team news. Emmanuel Agbadou is back in contention. He's returned from AFCON. Of course, lots of speculation surrounding him and a potential move to Besiktas. Rob Edwards didn't comment on that and, didn't talk about that as far as we're aware. The only doubt is Tawanda Chirewa, who has been ill this week. Respectfully to Tawanda, not a massive loss in regards to Wolves' first team picture. And of course, there are other players, João Gomes and so on, that there is certain speculation around, but I would still expect them to be starting that game on Sunday against Newcastle. In regards to outgoings, obviously Marshall Monetti, who hasn't really been part of the matchday squad since December anyway, he's moved to Paris FC on loan for the remainder of the season, was officially announced today. So of course we'll be without him, and players like Jean-Ric Bellegarde still not quite back and not quite ready yet, but he is back on the grass and training at Compton as well. But last weekend we saw the reintroduction of Rodrigo Gomez. That will be a massive boost to Wolves, and a little bit more firepower and quality going down the wide areas as well. And in terms of a first team or a predicted lineup, I should say, for Wolves, I think you go pretty close to probably the Everton game. Of course, the likes of Jurgen Strand-Larsen, again, there's been speculation or more speculation about him today, grabbing a hat-trick against Shrewsbury last weekend. Maybe it gives Rob Edwards a headache to have, and maybe Jurgen does come back in to the lineup on Sunday. But I think you have to be fair to the players that have helped contribute, especially in the Premier League, to 3 consecutive unbeaten games. So for me, I think it's Jose Sarr in goal. You stick with Hugo Bueno on the left. Right back will be an interesting one. Obviously, Keanu Hoover's gone now, so it's a toss-up really between Doc, Chichua perhaps, or maybe even Rodrigo Gomez comes in. But I think it's still too early for him, so I would assume Jackson Chichua will start at right back for Wolves. Your back 3 of Santi Bueno, Mosquera and Krejci, I would say. João Gomez will keep his place in the midfield. Andre might come in alongside him, with Mateus Mane sitting a little deeper as well. However, could you see Arias and Mane either side of João Gomez again? So Mane for me definitely starts. I would say it's going to be Tolu, and then you probably still start Hwang as well, based on what we've seen so far from the lineups in the Premier League since the start of the year. So I would assume Rob Edwards, despite a real comprehensive and comfortable victory last week against Shrewsbury, probably won't change things too much in regards to a Premier League 11. However, he may surprise us. Jurgen might come in for Tolo and so on. We might see Rodrigo start. I doubt it in regards to Rodrigo, but having that sort of quality and energy, that infectious energy, could be a real boost for Wolves coming off the bench on Sunday as well. But as always, it's a pleasure to talk to a good friend of mine, Paul Madden, from the Irish Mags podcast, to discuss all things Newcastle United, how he's found the season so far, and life under Eddie Howe. So then, guys, it's great to welcome Paul back on from the True Faith and the Irish Mags podcast. Matt, it's good to have you on, mate. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad, Dave. It doesn't feel like it just feels like these chats we have come around quicker and quicker with the amount of games that's happening, and the season is just flying by. So I don't really know what day or week or month it is, but it doesn't really matter.
I know I feel like that, but I mean, with the amount of games that you have as well, I mean, you've had a cup game during the week. You got Champions League upcoming this week as well. I'm impressed that you managed to keep on top of it all.
Well, if I'm struggling, how do you think Eddie Howe and the players and the staff are managing? It's like rotation and injuries. Every game, I think the last 3 or 4 games we've had a player go down injured and had to come off. There's Jacob Murphy in the last game. We've had Tino Livramento. We've had Fabian Scher, Dan Burns. It's a lot of injuries. And, about 2 months ago, I was thinking, we're having a good season with injuries. And then this 3 games a week nonstop since October has taken its toll. So, yeah, you can see how tough it is. You just can't play that many games and hold on to a fit squad.
Yeah, I was looking at the fixtures and I think I almost felt like this Wolves fixture possibly came at a good time for us actually because it's like in the middle of quite a lot of crucial games for Newcastle. I mean, as a fan, you obviously want to win every game, but do you think this game is quite low on the priority list for Newcastle, seeing as you got a second leg coming up, the Champions League coming up, or do you think this is still quite an important game for your team?
I actually think it's probably more important because of the run of games that we have coming. So we have PSV at home in the Champions League next after the Wolves game.
Yeah.
And then it's about to get crazy. From the end of January for about 6 weeks, over the course of 5-6 weeks, we've got Man City twice, we've got PSG away, we've got Liverpool away, we've got Villa, we've got Tottenham, and obviously that semi-final return leg. Even though I think that could be, we've got such a bad record in the Etihad. We haven't scored in the Etihad since Eddie Howe took over, so that says enough. So for me, that makes this game and the 3 points this game is worth even more important because we've got so many difficult games, and we may get injuries. Who knows what will happen? That you'd hate to come along and have a difficult run of games against City, against Liverpool, against Villa, and look back and go, we should have got 3 points against Wolves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't mean any disrespect to Wolves.
No, of course,
especially last 4 games unbeaten. So a lot of Newcastle fans are looking at this thinking potential banana skin, and it would be a crap time to have a banana skin moment with the fixtures ahead.
Yeah, I think Wolves fans, they will take some confidence into this game. I think exactly just based on what you've said there. But Newcastle have picked up some decent form. It always felt first half of the season, Matt, it almost felt like a little bit inconsistent, but I think it has picked up for Newcastle. And when you look at the amount of competitions you're still fighting on at the moment, you're still competitive in the league, especially that sort of middle pack of the Premier League is so tight at the moment. What have you made of the recent results anyway? Because it's been a decent start to the year for you guys as well.
It has results wise in terms of we've picked up points. If you start to peel back the layers, Dave, we beat Palace at home, we beat Leeds at home. Obviously we played Bournemouth there recently.
Yeah,
Burnley were in there. These aren't superstar teams, and we're particularly with Leeds, let's say we're kind of scraping through at home. Yeah. So results wise, yes, and there is something to take from that. I mean, obviously, yourselves, every point matters. And Wolves fans, I know, will be looking back where points were dropped, even just now with the Everton game and the 9 men and all that. So on paper, you would think, we're up to 6th in the league, just having won 3 games in a row in the Premier League. But they were, not fantastic performances against not the top sides. Games you feel we should be winning for a Champions League level team, which we haven't been playing as. So, if I was a Wolves fan, I would think these are here for the taking. They're inconsistent. They've got injuries, and Wolves have nothing to lose. So,
I
shouldn't say that out loud.
No. I've mentioned it on here. I think like the West Ham game when we beat them, considering Nuno's situation at the time, all the pressure was on them. Wolves, there was no expectation from Wolves. We hadn't won a game all season. There was almost no pressure on us, and I think it showed because we played so well. And I think, again, possibly the same going into this fixture. I think there will be more pressure on Eddie Howe and Newcastle coming to Molineux. And you mentioned it there, a Champions League level team. Is that the goal, you think, for Newcastle again this season? Is it to get back into those Champions League qualification places, because it is, like I said, it's other than maybe the top three, it is still really, really tight, and I think they're all those places are still there for the taking.
I mean, I think any team that's within that touching distance. Brentford are fifth at the moment. There's going to be 5 Champions League places again. We're 3 points behind Brentford and Liverpool. I think it's crazy how the league is shaping up. So there's no reason for us not
You
to
would
feel
hope to
like
have better consistency throughout the season than Brentford as well. You would think, wouldn't you?
you'd like to think so, but I mean they've probably been playing better than Newcastle as it stands. I think quality wise, look, we haven't performed to the level we should be, I think, for the majority of the season. And in particular, we haven't done it for 90 minutes. It's hard to look back and say this is where we dominated a game from start to finish. I think our 2 best performances came, one was when we beat Man City back in November at home. We beat them 2-1. And
Yeah,
we were really good, but we still only beat them 2-1. And probably then we smashed Everton, I think 4-1, 4-0, 4-1 away. And that was arguably our best performance in the league this season. Other than that, it's been phases within games where we've shone and we've been brilliant, and then we've let teams back in, and then we've clawed it back, and so on. So, yeah, I mean, are we aspiring for Champions League? Absolutely, we should be. Looking at the money we spent, the wage bill we have, the players we have. But this is the next 6 weeks is going to tell whether we'll do that or not, because like that, there are other teams competing alongside us. Chelsea are always there. They've dropped off a little bit. They're always there. Obviously, he said Liverpool. Man United are still up there in sixth, even though they're sacking their manager. So the whole, or seventh actually, the whole league is a bit mad. And I think by the time we get to maybe end of February, early March, we might have a bit more of an idea what's going on. But Newcastle need to really, go at Wolves in this game, because if we're not, like, again, no disrespect, but if you look back on paper at the start of the season, this should be a game that Newcastle would be looking at going, we need to get 3 points here. We should be getting 3 points here, especially considering the run of games ahead.
Yeah, I think in terms of your team at the moment, there's not, obviously, I think there were always going to be teething issues when Alexander Isak went, and that was a real long drawn out situation throughout the summer, which didn't help anybody really. You brought in Voltemada as his replacement. I know obviously you looked at Strand Larsen throughout the summer as well, but Voltemada was the man. You had Jan Wisser as well as come in. Anybody else? I mean, out of those two, we're going to be needing to look out for somebody on Sunday. Anybody else that's sort of kicked on and playing at a good level for Newcastle recently?
Yeah, I would say Harvey Barnes is emerging as kind of our most potent goal threat in the last few games.
He tends to score against us quite often as well, I think. Whenever even for Leicester, he got a couple of goals.
Yeah, and I was chatting to Liam Keane on the True Faith pod. I was speaking to him for the opposition view. He said the exact same thing. He was like, we were naming players in common that seem to always score against our respective clubs. Alex Iwobi was named, and Danny Welbeck, and these guys that just always score against us. But I think Harvey Barnes, he's our top scorer in all comps this season. He's got 11.
Wow.
Voltemade is on 9. So Voltemade has been good, but again, not consistently good. He pops up, scores a brace, and then he mightn't do much for another game or two. So it's hard to know. Yeah. I think he scored the winner in the reverse fixture back.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he scored. He definitely scored. Yeah.
So there's more to come from him. Wissa is a slow burner for us in terms of getting off the ground. The other player really, and I'm following Newcastle a long time, and I've been watching this guy for a long time, Bruno Guimaraes. I would say since maybe November, December, he's been having some of his best form in a Newcastle shirt, to the point where he's actually carrying us in games. He's driving us forward. You can almost see him literally carrying the rest of the team forward, trying to make things happen. The passing range, the vision, the leadership.
He's adding goals now too, isn't he?
He's adding goals to his game, adding assists to his game, and he's, I would say, probably been our best player. Probably like in terms of consistency all season is probably Bruno, and obviously for our captain. So he's someone to watch. Tonali's been a bit hit and miss. There's been talks about his fitness. There's been talks about him having either an injury or an illness. He's just had a baby last week. His wife had it anyway, not him.
Roy Keane.
Joe Linton is just getting back into it. So yeah, I think Bruno is the Mr. Consistent there. But we are stretched in defence. We've got Fabian Schär out. We've got Dan Burn out. Tino Livramento is now out. So we're literally stretched with Lewis Miley playing as a right back and he's a midfielder. So, but having said that, look, we're grinding out results. and I still think that we have enough to beat Wolves on Sunday. But I would say that, wouldn't I, Dave?
Yeah, no, of course. And anyone from the Wolves team that you're interested to see more of on Sunday, or anyone that you're a little bit worried maybe in facing?
Well, I mean, it's almost, we say this every time, Dave. You and I play a lot of Football Manager. It's almost written that Jørgen Strand Larsen scores against Newcastle because they tried to buy him last summer.
Yeah.
Again, that's whether he starts or not, because I know he's been in and out of the squad a little bit. Obviously saw that he got a hat-trick in the Cup at the weekend, but granted it was against Shrewsbury. But I think probably most eyes are on this young kid you have now in midfield, Matthias Mane, who actually Newcastle also apparently linked to it, but probably everybody is. And you know how the hype train grows very quickly. But he looks a real talent, has a little bit of an eye for goal, and is someone to keep an eye on, I think, from a Newcastle perspective. The way Newcastle play, sometimes we end up with a little bit of a hole in the kind of defensive midfield area, just in front of the back four. And sometimes there's gaps there, and that might be the space that he likes to occupy. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. And yeah, on the topic of players that always score against us, I feel like Hwang always scores against Newcastle.
He does have a decent form against Newcastle.
He's got a good record against Newcastle,
especially
and he's been doing okay, I think, in recent times again. So
yeah, he's picked up a little bit, Hwang. So yeah, I mean, last league game at Molineux, he did quite well. He struggles away from home, but last game at Molineux in the West Ham win, he was decent. Do you think? Would you keep the door open for maybe a Strand to return to talks with Strand Larsen? Do you think maybe in January or the summer, or do you think that ship has sailed now for Newcastle?
Like in the summer, there was obviously Newcastle were desperate, right? And every club knew this because of the Isak situation. You know, we signed Wissa with about 20 seconds to go apparently on deadline day. Voltemade was only a few days before that, so I wouldn't pay 60 million for him now because he had one good season, but we're not seeing it again. Now, granted, you could say he's in a much poorer version of Wolves without Ait-Nouri, without Cunha, and these guys.
Yeah.
I profile wise, even though Voltemade isn't really a number 9, I don't know. I can't picture the two of them in the same squad. These two big kind of lumbering forwards. So I wouldn't be in a rush to sign him in terms of since looking at the players we brought in now since. Yeah. But if he was to go on a bit of a run and score, I mean, I think the likelihood is he probably wanted to move, and then I don't know if there's an element of loyalty. Did he sign a new deal when he didn't move, Dave, or am I dreaming?
He did, but I'd assume there was some sort of promises in there that if a club came in with a certain, I mean, we talk about the Football Manager side of things. I'd assume there's promises in there that if a club came in with a certain fee, or I'd assume there's a pretty tasty wage upgrade in that as well. But I will be interested. I mean, there are. I think Newcastle have been linked again this month, but mainly other teams. Leeds today has been the latest club that have inquired about him, apparently. But yeah, we'll wait. So I suppose you can never close the door on it because you like you said, you don't know which sort of form he'd go on, and in the summer his fee may be a lot more generous than what we were looking at last summer anyway. But score prediction, Mad, what are you thinking for Sunday?
I'm always a blind optimist.
You've got
but look, I have to be. I do think we've been in good form in the Premier League in particular. That Man City result recently was a little bit of a kind of a kick, especially at the end. It was a bit of a sucker punch when we conceded the second goal.
Yeah.
So I do think we should bounce back. This is the biggest gap we've had between two games. Parking kind of Christmas, but the Man City game was on Tuesday. This game is on Sunday. So I think we'll be a little bit fresher. I'm probably going to look at go 3-1 Newcastle, Dave. Maybe Matthias Mane looks at this as an audition for himself.
You wish. No. Both teams to score, quite a big one in this fixture as well. I think both teams normally, at Molineux especially, I think in every game we've played at Molineux in the Premier League, the stat would have popped up throughout the video somewhere. I think at Molineux, every game there have been both teams scoring. So that's one if anyone wanted to put a bit of money on it. And if it doesn't come in, don't blame me. But anyway, Mad, thanks for jumping on. I'll make sure I leave a link to your podcasts in the description down below. And I'm not sure we'll catch you up on this platform next season, but definitely in the future. Hopefully I'll catch up with you soon.
Never know. We might see you in the cup, Dave.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Mate? Yeah, I'll catch you soon. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
So big thanks to Mad. Once again, you can find the links for him and his podcast in the description down below. And fingers crossed it is a positive result for Wolves. Again, it'd be fantastic to extend our unbeaten record for 2026 and potentially a little bit more positivity into any sort of survival push for Wolves, I suppose. Rob Edwards did say today that all his players are up for it. They're committed to the football club, including the likes of João Gomez and Emmanuel Agbadou amid interest for their services as well. But yeah, fingers crossed we can see a positive result on Sunday, guys. As always, hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give me your thoughts and feelings going into this game. And I'll, yeah, see you soon.